Welcome to another deep dive. This time, we're going to change how you think about the sounds we make when we speak. Today, we're going to be exploring this mystical world of Hebrew vowels and how they're understood in Jewish and Christian traditions.
Hmm. It's really quite remarkable how these seemingly simple vowel sounds can unlock such deep spiritual ideas.
You're telling me we're going to be diving into this paper called The Chant of Hebrew Vowels, and it really gets you thinking about this hidden power of language. So to give you a little background, we have to realize that Hebrew vowels, well, they weren't originally written down.
Yeah, that's right. And it's kind of a big deal. Just imagine trying to read the Torah, but without any vowels.
So how did anyone know what they were reading? Like, was it some kind of secret code or something?
Well, yeah, kind of. You really needed to have this deep understanding of the whole context to read it without the vowels, almost like a sixth sense for the meaning. And, this knowledge was traditionally passed down through families from mothers to children, often using chants and melodies.
Wow, that's a really something. It sounds like a very intimate and powerful way to transmit knowledge. So they were like singing to babies.
You could say that. Some believe that this early exposure to the sounds of the language, even before birth, helped shape a child's spiritual connection to the words, and then ultimately their connection to God. It's a beautiful idea, isn't it?
It really is. I'm beginning to understand a little bit more how language and spirituality are connected in this tradition. I'm a little curious about this mystical significance of consonants and vowels that the paper talks about. Can you help me understand that a bit more?
Of course. Think about it this way. Consonants, they're like the physical world, all the things we can touch and see. They sort of form the structure, like the building blocks of words.
Okay, so then where do vowels fit in? They're a little more elusive, aren't they?
Exactly, and that's why they're seen as this divine breath, the unseen force that brings creation to life. They're sort of like the spiritual realm, the eternal things we can't quite grasp, but we know are there.
So what I'm hearing is that consonants are like the body and vowels are like the soul of a language.
Yeah, that's a really good analogy. The paper even quotes the Sefer HaBahir, the Book of Clarity, which describes vowels as being to consonants what the soul is to the body. It's quite powerful.
For sure. Makes you realize that we're not just talking about linguistics here, but something much deeper, almost like the essence of creation itself. So how does this idea of vowels as the divine breath, how does that play out in Jewish mystical practice?
So one of the key aspects is this practice of chanting vowels. Important figures in Jewish mysticism, like Rabbi Abraham Abulafia, he saw this as a way to unlock deeper meaning in these sacred texts.
So is it kind of like meditating, but instead of silence, you use sound?
That's a good comparison. Chanting allows you to feel the vibrations of the words in your body. It's a way of moving beyond the intellectual understanding of the text and into a more experiential, spiritual realm.
So it's not just about what the words mean, but how they feel, how they kind of resonate within you?
Exactly. And this whole concept of using sound and rhythm to connect with the divine isn't just found in Jewish mysticism. You'll find similar practices in spiritual traditions all over the world.
Yeah, that makes sense. Humans have always been drawn to sound and music to experience the sacred. This paper mentions the anthropology of gesture. Remind me again what that's about?
Yes, the anthropology of gesture that was developed by Marcel Jus, a Jesuit priest and an anthropologist. He was really interested in how rhythm and movement, particularly gestures, are essential to how we communicate, especially when it comes to spiritual expression. Think about it. When we pray, often we raise our hands or sway. We embody the words with our whole being.
So chanting Hebrew vowels, that could be seen as a kind of gesture, like physically and spiritually connecting with the divine through sound.
Yeah, that's it. It's all about embodying the sacred through the language's sounds. Now, this connects to a really interesting idea the paper mentions, the concept of the imaginal.
Okay, you're going to have to break that down for me because I'm not really sure I get what the imaginal is.
Well, it's a really cool concept. The word imaginal, it comes from the philosopher Henry Corbin, and it refers to this realm of spiritual reality that's not just imaginary or fantasy, but a real dimension of existence that we can access through imagination, symbolism, and even practices like chanting.
So it's not like we're making it up, but it's real, just unseen.
That's the idea. And the paper suggests that this ancient practice of chanting Hebrew vowels could be a way for people from Judeo-Christian backgrounds to tap into this imaginal realm, to experience the divine in a more tangible way.
Wow, we're really getting into some deep stuff here, but I'm definitely interested. I'm starting to see how those seemingly simple vowel sounds can lead to a whole world of spiritual understanding.
And we've only just begun. There's still so much more to explore about how these vowels work on a mystical level. In fact, the paper dives into this fascinating passage from the Talmud where they use different vowel sounds in a single word to reveal layers of hidden meaning. It's pretty amazing.
Oh, I love a good example. What word is it?
The word is from the Song of Songs, and it's the word for young girls. Sounds simple, right? But the Babylonian Talmud uses this technique. I'm going to use an easier word than what's in the paper, where they play with the vowel sounds in that word to unlock these deeper meanings. It's really mind-blowing.
Okay, now you've got me hooked. Tell me more about this owl play and what kind of hidden meanings they find. So we were talking about the Song of Songs and this idea that, by changing the vowel sounds in the word for young girls, you can reveal these hidden meanings, but I'm still a little confused how that even works.
Well, it's not like there's this set code, where each vowel equals a certain meaning. It's a little more subtle than that. It's not like a shift in emphasis or interpretation, I guess you could say.
Okay, so each vowel kind of opens up this new way of looking at the word, and then in turn reveals a new layer of meaning to the verse.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it. The Talmud is full of this creative wordplay. They really use the flexibility of Hebrew to explore all these different sides of an idea.
Wow, that's really amazing. Makes you think how much depth and nuance can be packed into something as simple as a vowel sound? Could you give me like an example of one of these vowel shifts and what it shows?
Sure. So one of the shifts changes the word young girls to mean something like, when a scholar shares their knowledge, they discover even more knowledge.
Oh, so like the act of teaching leads to deeper understanding. That makes a lot of sense to me. Sometimes when I'm explaining something to someone else, I feel like I learn even more about it myself.
That's it. It's really highlighting this idea that knowledge isn't just something you have. It's more like something that grows and changes through sharing and discussion.
Right. It's like a much more dynamic way of looking at learning than just, passively taking in information.
And then another vowel shift takes it a step further. It suggests that by sharing our understanding of these sacred texts and, getting closer to God, we actually weaken the power of death over us.
Hold on. Are we talking about immortality here?
Well, not necessarily the literal sense, like, living forever in a physical body. It's more about the idea that by connecting with something eternal, something bigger than us, we can kind of move beyond the limits of being mortal.
Okay, yeah, that's a really deep thought. So it's like through interacting with these texts and these practices, we're tapping into a different kind of existence, one that goes beyond our physical lifespan.
Yeah, that's the idea. And it's just so fascinating how something as small as a vowel change can lead us to such a huge concept.
This is pretty mind-blowing. It's like these vowel sounds and chanting them is like this spiritual technology, a way to unlock these deeper meanings and connect with something outside of ourselves.
That's a great way to look at it. And don't forget, this whole tradition of chanting vowels wasn't just for studying sacred texts. The paper mentions is really important in daily life, especially in families.
Oh yeah, we talked about how mothers would chant these vowel sounds to their kids even before they were born. And the paper even talks about this link between these ancient Hebrew chants and the work of Marcel Jüss, the Jesuit priest who studied gestures. I'm kind of having trouble putting those two together.
Yeah, it's an interesting connection, isn't it? Remember how Jusel thought that rhythm and movement were like the basis of how we communicate, especially in spiritual stuff?
Yeah, like mimism, right? That we copy the gestures and rhythms around us to learn and connect with the world.
Exactly. And the paper suggests that these Hebrew vowel chants, with all the focus on sound and rhythm, are a form of mimism, like a way of copying the divine, getting in sync with the rhythm of creation.
Oh, wow. So it's like through these chants, we're not just learning a language, but really getting a feel for a whole way of looking at the world.
Right, and this circles back to that idea of the imaginal we talked about. The paper argues that by doing these chanting practices, we're not just getting information, we're opening up to a totally different way of seeing reality, a place where, the physical and spiritual are all mixed together.
It's like we've been looking at language the wrong way all along, focused on the words on a page and not realizing the power in the spoken word, like how sound can change how we see the world.
And the paper goes on to suggest that this ancient practice of chanting vowels could even affect how we learn languages today.
Really? How so?
Well, when you chant, you're not just remembering sounds, you're really feeling them, experiencing them in your body. It's a much more physical way of learning.
So it's like you really absorb those sounds, like you become part of the language.
That's a great way to say it. The paper makes the argument that this physical understanding of vowels could be the key to really getting the small differences in pronunciation and meaning, even for adults learning Hebrew now.
That's fascinating. It makes you wonder if we've lost something in our modern way of learning languages, this link to, the actual feeling of sound, how it resonates inside us.
It is something to think about, isn't it? And it just goes to show the wisdom in those ancient mothers. They knew that passing on a language wasn't just about vocabulary or grammar. It was about passing down a whole experience of the world. Like they were putting this worldview, a spiritual understanding, into those chanted vowel sounds.
It's like they were creating this tapestry of meaning using sound as the thread. That's such a beautiful way to think about it. You mentioned earlier that these vowel permutations have something to do with how we see immortality. Can we get into that a little more?
Of course, let's go back to those vowel permutations and see how they shed light on what it means to live beyond our physical limits.
All right, so we're going back to those vowel permutations from the Talmud and how they connect to the idea of immortality. It's pretty deep stuff, but I'm ready to see where this goes.
Yeah, well, it's pretty cool how these vowel shifts can reveal all these different sides of, what it means to live past our physical limits. Remember that first permutation? The one that suggests that, sharing knowledge actually helps you discover even more knowledge.
Yeah, it's like the more you teach, the more you learn, right?
Exactly. And the paper points out that this has some pretty big implications for how we think about, learning and teaching. It suggests that real knowledge isn't something we just have. It's more like something we create through conversation, through, going back and forth with ideas.
So it's not just one person, telling someone else what they know. It's more like working together to figure things out.
That's a great way to put it. And this idea really lines up with the Jewish concept of revelation. The idea that God's wisdom isn't just sitting there, it's always unfolding, showing itself to us through how we engage with the sacred texts and with each other.
Wow, that's a really cool way to think about it. So, like, every time we study the Torah, every time we have a real conversation about what it means, we're adding to this, like, never-ending process of revelation. It's like we're all part of something way bigger than ourselves.
That's a really beautiful insight. And that kind of brings us to the second vowel permutation, the one that links sharing knowledge to, weakening the power of death.
Right. That whole idea that connecting with the eternal, with God, helps us kind of go beyond our own limited selves. It's a little hard to wrap my head around, but I think I'm getting it.
Well, the paper suggests that real immortality isn't about living forever in a physical body, but more about aligning ourselves with something bigger, something that lasts even after we're gone from this world.
So, like, our individual lives are just a small part of this huge story, and that story keeps going even after we're not here anymore.
That's a really nice way to put it. And the paper argues that by really engaging with these sacred texts, by really understanding God's wisdom, we kind of tap into that bigger story, that eternal flow of existence. We become part of something that goes beyond time and space.
It's like those vowel permutations are showing us all these different parts of immortality, different ways to understand what it means to live beyond our physical limits. Makes you think about your own life in a whole new way. What about that last permutation? The one about being loved by the worlds.
Oh, yeah. That one suggests that when we grow spiritually, we end up being loved by both the physical world and the eternal realm. And the paper connects this to the idea of tikkun olam, which means repairing the world.
So it's not just about like personal enlightenment, but about taking that spiritual growth and, using it to make the world a better place.
Exactly. The paper is saying that true spiritual growth isn't just about us becoming enlightened. It's about taking that new wisdom and using it to make a positive impact on the world around us, both physically and spiritually.
It's like that quote by Gandhi, be the change you wish to see in the world. But here it's more like be the spiritual change you want to see. It's about taking what we learn from these ancient practices and using it in our lives now.
That's a great way to sum it up. And it really shows how these ancient Hebrew vowel practices aren't just some weird rituals. They really can affect how we live our lives, how we treat each other, and how we take care of the world.
I'm definitely seeing this whole vower chanting thing differently now. It's like some kind of spiritual technology, a way to find deeper meanings, connect with the divine, and even make the world better.
And that brings us to the big question the paper asks. If these Hebrew vowels have so much power, what about the sounds in language as a whole? Can thinking about the sounds in our own languages, how we talk and how we listen, help us connect to a deeper, more spiritual side of communication and understanding? Maybe there's more to the sounds we make and hear than we think.
That's something I'm definitely going to think about. This whole deep dive has made me listen differently, not just to language, but to everything around me.
And that's what's so great about digging into these ancient traditions. They give us new perspectives, new ways of looking at ourselves, our relationship with the divine, and our place in, like, the whole story of existence.
I feel like I have a brand new set of ears. I want to pay more attention to the sounds in my own language, see if I can find any hidden meanings there.
That's great. And remember, spiritual exploration never really ends. There's always more to learn, more to discover, more to experience. So keep listening, keep asking questions, and keep diving deep.
I will. Thanks for joining us on this awesome deep dive into Hebrew vowels. Until next time, keep exploring.